Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, I give you 20 minutes to present your paper, Mr. Matian, and now
Yes.
time is yours.
Okay. As the previous presenters have addressed that the idea of Rahmatan lil Alamin is most referred to the verse of Quran Surah Al-Anbiya, wa ma arsalnaka illa rahmatan lil alamin. And we used to translate it as Islam, the religion of mercy, of love, compassion, blah, blah, blah. But my highlight is this. It is difficult to imagine when when it came down to the Prophet Muhammad 14 centuries ago, that he, the Prophet, and his companions would have conceived the phrase Rahmatan lil Alamin in a way that is consistent with the current understanding as a first with the mission against violence. So this is new translation of the ayah. It's new translation, very recent translation of today. It's not and never been translated that way in the era of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If we look at Islam, for instance, from the teachings and the Muslims practice, we might see violence, we might see inequality, we might see the practices of patriarchal relations, we might see injustice, terrorism, blah, blah, blah. All of that might be true, or might not. So the operator must click that. You know, it can be true, and it can be not true. But whether it is true or not, as the Islam is the religion of violence or not, it's not violent. Islam is peace. Both options are merely, construction. It's constructed through the society, through the power of knowledge that we learn day by day. So I give you an example how it is difficult. For instance, the permissibility of a husband hitting his wife in the Quran, for example, when Quran says, وَاللَّاتِي تَخَافُونَ نُشُوزَهُنَّ فَعِذُوهُنَّ وَهْجُرُوهُنَّ فِي الْمَضَاجِعِ وَاضْرِبُوهُنَّ. It is very difficult to translate وَاضْرِبُوهُنَّ in a context today. So it is a Quran who says that, or what it says that it is permissible for a husband who find his wife An-Nashiza as the unobedient woman, so the husband might hit her. So that's really, happening in the context of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the context of Islam, in the history of Islam. So some Muslims even argue that it is allowed for me as a husband to hit my wife when my wife does not obey me. It's very Quranic. So, for instance, the division of girls' inheritance of half of men, that could be also, you might say, as equality in Islam, for instance. So it is difficult to read the text, and we read the context of today and the context of Muhammad and the time of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because there is a gap. There is a very fundamental historical, or even you might say sociological gaps between today and 14 years ago of the era of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Muhammad and his companion would not translate Rahmatan lil Alamin as anti-war. There were wars in Islam. And it's not merely defensive, Islam at the era of Muhammad SAW and his caliphate, the fourth caliphate, four of them, even afterwards, at the era of Umayyad and Abbasid period, Islam is aggressive, It's not merely defensive. It addressed war. So how to translate Islam is anti-violence without, hanging the sword? So there is a questions as such, like for instance, when we read that our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has many wives, in a certain version it's 9, in some other version it's 12, blah, blah, blah. And we cannot say that Islam is supporting polygamy. We cannot say that, because we neglect the context where the teaching فَانْكِحُوا مَا طَابَ لَكُمْ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ مَثْنَى وَثُلَاثَ وَرُبَاعَ. It's the context of anti-polygamy. We cannot say that Islam is anti-slavery, as many hundreds of verses in the Quran is talking about slavery. How to translate those verses today in the context of our time? So it is, like we jump, the translation is jumping too high, to translate Rahmatan lil Alamin as anti-violence. So we have these hermeneutical gaps of our address. The first is the gap between the text and the context. We cannot just put the verse that has revealed 14 years ago and just to contextualize it today in the era of peace. So there is a problem between different contexts, past, present, and future, here and there, in Mecca, in the context of Arabia, for instance. So there is a gaps between understandings. This is very important. So the Western terms of radicalism is different from the understanding of Muslims in Indonesia, for instance, about anti-radicalism. How you translate that Muslim in Palestine or Muslim in Rohingya or Uyghur should keep silence with the, with the war and terrors that they have. So they have to take their swords. And it's not, necessarily against the verse of Rahmatan lil Alamin. I can give you an example that beating, o dalam bahasa Indonesia kita sebut memukul, itu adalah perilaku KDRT atau kekerasan dalam rumah tangga. Hitting the member of your family is domestic violence. But now, how do you translate this? Muru awladakum bis-shalah fis sab'a. Ya. Kalau umur anakmu 7, perintah salat. Wadribuhum li ashar. Pukul. So can we translate that as against the rules or the law of anti-domestic violence? So we have tremendous problems when we translate the concept of Rahmatan lil Alamin as we have it today as the propaganda of anti-terrorism. You move back to the previous slide, please. Tolong dikembalikan ke slide sebelumnya. So there is a gap also between people who produce the understanding and who consumes the understandings. That's very important also. That the word radicalism, terrorism, anti-kekerasan dalam rumah tangga, human rights, all of those terms are imposed that we imported from the West. But how Indonesia, for instance, or Thailand, for instance, have different translations, about those terms, and how the concept of Rahmatan lil Alamin might be implemented in the context of terror in the Muslim society in Uyghur in China or in Rohingya. So that's very important before we simplify the translations of Islam Rahmatan lil Alamin is pro to the peace program addressed by the West. So that's what I highlight as a problem of post-colonial discourses. That's the narrative that we have in a society is a problematic to that way. So we have those kind of problem. Also, there is a problem, there is a gap between the people who understand. As we might, conceptually, very normatively, translate the verse of Rahmatan lil Alamin, and people who experience violence, for instance, people who are in the context of war, how to read that verse? Should we keep silence and should we, defend only, or should we do aggression? If you remember, Tariq bin Ziyad, Islam has been there in the Spain, in the site Alhambra, the Masjid Alhambra in the Spain. That was because Islam was doing aggression to that particular territory. It's not defensive. If Islam perform only defensive, Islam should have only be in Makkah and Arabia territory. But Islam was at the time, the capital of Islam was in Spain. The capital of Islam was in Persia, in Baghdad. So Islam do aggression to that area. How to translate Rahmatan lil Alamin within that context? Is it okay for you to beat your or to hit your children because they do not perform salah? Because they already passed the age of 10. Is it okay for you to hit your wife? That's kind of texts in the Quran or in Hadith, in the text of Islam, in Islamic tradition, to me seems very problematic. So come back to that. No. Yeah. So if we are ignorant about these gaps and just doing what we are doing, we would do nothing actually but exercising power. We are being colonialized by the West as the owner of this discourse. We are exercising power. We are colonialized, and we translate Rahmatan lil Alamin as we understand it today as anti-kekerasan. So that creates the false consciousness about our political Islam. To me, the translation of Rahmatan lil Alamin needs to be reviewed again. As a scholar, many scholars here, you cannot translate that very simplicity, to simplify the translation as Islam pro kedamaian. No, Islam sometimes need to bring sword, but what in what context? In what, again, if we are busy, making the counter discourse by saying that Islam is not that violent, by making the counter narratives, we may forget about something essential to our own tradition, to the Islam itself. We are being, colonialized by the West in this term. So we understand the context of today as we surrender the issue to the West. So all the Muslims today, follow the rule of the West, pro the human rights, pro the anti-violence, blah, blah, blah. But we have our own value that actually might be, extracted, that we might understand for our own understanding from the text and the context, from the practice of everyday life. In Islam, in Indonesia, for instance, we don't have the context of war. And it is not simply, be parallel to the context of Arabia, in the context of Muhammad and his companions. So there is other way that you might say that Islam by doctrine is very peaceful, but Muslim by practice is violent. That's also tricky, because those people who caught as a terrorist, for instance, they make symbols of Islam. Some of them wear the niqab, some of them. So that's the stereotype of Islam being the violent religious or violent religion or extremist religions being spread from the 9/11. So should we really distinguish between the two? That's my question. Should we distinguish between Islam, the teaching of Islam, and the Islamic practice, the Muslim practice in the Muslim world? That's also a question. To me, people out there really don't have much time thinking about the difference between the teaching and the practice. What they see, that's what they impress. So if still the terrorists are Muslim, they will still say that Islam is terrorist. To maybe your notes as well, I have also interviewed some of the ex-terrorists, about the practice of Rahmatan lil Alamin. To them, bombing the malls in a public sphere, public area, is a translation of rahmah. Because to them, if they live longer in this world, they will perform maksiat. They will perform sins by day. So better we bomb them. So that's my practice of rahmah to them. To give compassion to them is by killing them. You know, that's very tricky. If you hit your children because your children do not want to eat, for instance, is it the act of violence or it is the act of compassion? A mother who find his or her children doesn't want to eat, the mother beat the children because they have to eat. The action of beating is the action of violence or the action of compassion? That's very ethical question, dilemma that we find it today. So yeah, that's just a lot of questions that I might address to this conference, but most of them are not answered. You know, most of them are critical questions from the perspective of post-colonial discourse to the first and to the word or the discourse of anti-violence or what you call as the implementation of the concept of rahmatan lil alamin. I might address wrong, or you might not well listen. I have provided the presentation and the paper. You might refer to that a lot. So that's my presentation, Mr. Tian, and thank you. Yeah, looking forward to interaction. Yeah,
okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for Mr. Ahmad Sammatian